Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we simulated the season, and we have made it back to the playoffs again, which is great to see despite our team getting quite old, I would say. We finished 47, 27, and 8, and we are going to be taking on the Nashville Predators in the first round of playoffs, which should be a pretty good matchup because both of us, in terms of goals for and goals against, were very solid teams. In terms of our special teams, we were way better than they were, but I do think it still should be a pretty even matchup. It's just all about, obviously, if our regular season success could translate into some playoff success this year, because we didn't really score a ton of goals in terms of high-end point getters. We had 77 points, Cashman had 74, for instance, but this league is really low scoring. For instance, there's only two 100-point getters this season and only 150 goal scorer in the entire league. So our depth scoring is pretty decent in terms of the goal scoring department, but not really the points, I would say, because we did have, I guess, a total of 6 guys on this team with 22 or more goals. So I guess that does mean that we are a pretty solid team when you compare it to the rest of the league. Now, what was really good for us this season, though, that was kind of surprising, was Gianta had another really good season. He posted a .921 save percentage, despite being 34 years old at this point. So hopefully he has a chance to win another Vezina this season, because if he does win another Vezina, it would be the 4th of his career. So he's been really good up to this point, and I really hope that continues into the playoffs as well, though, because he hasn't really had the best playoff results as of the last few years, but it seems like when he has a good regular season, his playoff numbers kind of drop off a little bit, as you can see kind of with last year. He had a .902 in the regular season, then he posted a .916 in the playoff, or an .895 in the playoffs. The year before that, he posted a .912 and then a .916 in the playoffs, so maybe he's okay actually in the playoffs. I'm not too sure, but it kind of bounces around a bit, and we know that he's a little bit of an inconsistent goaltender when it comes to the postseason. So hopefully he finds himself. If he's not playing well, obviously we could go to Caleb Bachman, who was in his first season this year, and he was not the greatest, but he wasn't bad either. He was winning a good chunk of games. It was his save percentage that was a little bit low. Did pick up his first 2 career shutouts, which is nice. And then we also had some other young guys in our lineup this season that I think did a pretty decent job. Krejcik played 23 games. He will be starting to play with us in this postseason just because of an injury. So Krejcik had 10 points in 23 games. He was decent. Wall had 17 goals as a rookie. So Wall was pretty solid as a bottom 6 goal scoring type of option. From a defensive standpoint, I can't remember who we had. Oh yeah, we moved McLeod back to defense this year. He only had 49 points, which you guys are probably like, oh, that's not a lot. Well, he is actually a top, I think it was top 5 defenseman in points. Maybe it was top 7, something like that. But regardless, he was one of the best offensive defensemen in the league with only 49 points. So I don't really know what to make of our stats, just because the entire league, by comparison, was quite low scoring, as I suggested. So it'll be interesting to see if this league eventually becomes more of a high-scoring league again, but it's definitely not as crazy as it used to be back in when we had Staubitz and stuff on our team. So with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys had to say about last episode, and then we'll show you guys what Nashville's looking like again, just in case you forgot, and then we'll get into this first round matchup. So the first comment is from the Sports Kid 90, who says you should definitely do a Draft to Glory again on NHL 25 once this one ends. And the plan is right now, when this series ends, is to do my Throwback 2010 franchise mode. So that will be probably with the Edmonton Oilers, it seems like right now, which is going to be an interesting one. So that's what would be replacing his Albuquerque series once this one ends. But if our Islanders series kind of runs a little bit dry and stuff like that at some points, if you guys want me to do another Draft to Glory, maybe I could replace the Islanders series with another Draft to Glory at some point this year. But at the same time, I'm not too sure if I really want to do that, because I do want to kind of save Draft to Glories for early into NHL games. So maybe we don't do another one until the start of NHL 26, but maybe we could do some sort of other type of series to replace the Islanders one at some point, like we could always do. I'm not too sure. We could do maybe a, what is it? We take one country and we could only draft players from that one country or something like that. Or we do specific leagues where we could only draft players from the CHL, for instance, or maybe only players from the SHL. I'm not too sure exactly, but I feel like that would be a lot tougher. So I'm not too sure if that's something I want to wait till next year as well to do. But we definitely could look into options to replace the Islanders series at some point. But I kind of want to go all the way to the end with the Islanders series too, just for the instance that we have a lot of good players on that team, and I kind of want to see their careers progress right till the end. So I don't really know if there is a chance of another Draft to Glory this year, but definitely there will be one for the start of NHL 26, as there usually is. The next comment is from Sarataku, who says, New Mexico is like Florida where there is no state income tax, so that certainly would have played a motivating factor for him to accept a contract that was less than what he could have received elsewhere. So we did give Giannis an extension in the last episode, so he's saying that New Mexico doesn't have a state income tax just like Florida does. So that's why Giannis might have accepted his extension, which I'd say is a pretty good little extension. 2-year deal, $4.8 million. So he's basically getting half of what he was getting before around. So I'm really, really happy with that contract. I know he's going to probably be dropping off throughout that contract, but at the same time, at least that locks him up for the rest of the series. Now, we do have other goalies that could take his spot. Like Bachman could technically be the starter next year instead of Gianta, but I prefer to just hold on to as much goalies as possible for the rest of this. Like Andronov is ready to make the jump too. Like we might as well just keep like a three-headed monster of goalies for the time being. So Andronov might be a goaltender that plays for us again next season. Bachman might play with us next season. And then obviously Gianta will still probably play with us until he drops off a cliff. But I'd prefer to just hold on to those three guys for the time being because we're so close to the end anyways. And our last and final comment is from Michael Dose, who says, not sure what to expect from this team after finishing 3-7, and Gianta had a great season too, which usually means he struggles in the playoffs. And yeah, we kind of finished off the season on a little bit of a sour note, going 3-7 in our last 10 games, which isn't ideal. But at the same time, maybe that means this team's going to turn it around in the playoffs. I don't know really what caused us to go that bad in terms of the last few games of the season, but at least we're in the playoffs, and that's all that matters, because now that we're in this playoffs, we could literally go on maybe a winning streak or something like that. So let's show you guys what Nashville's looking like again, just in case you forgot, and then we'll make sure our lines are set up the way we want to for the start of this first round of the playoffs. But Nashville's an interesting team. We have played them a lot more as of recently. They did win a Stanley Cup a number of years ago, didn't miss the playoffs recently too, so I'm not really too sure on that, but they do have players like Radoslav Holton still, who is that franchise guy that was drafted first overall almost a decade ago. Pretty insane. He's a really good player. Louis Boudreau is obviously good. Merrick's is good. Bembridge is good. Like, they definitely have a good supporting cast. They also do have this Laxinen guy who they drafted 5th overall just last year, and that's where it's kind of weird because they won a Stanley Cup and then the year afterwards they just dropped off so much that they weren't a playoff team for a little bit, and now they're starting to make it back again. So former player Philippe Malak is there as well, in case you guys didn't remember Philippe Malak, former third line / depth option. He's not the best player in the world, but he is a solid 40-point guy, so you got to watch out for that. He has not played an NHL playoff game since he played with us back a few years ago, so should be interesting to play against him just because we have not played against him, I don't think, in the playoffs before. And aside from that, it's kind of a weaker bottom six. From a defensive standpoint, they do have a pretty solid defensive core on the top two pairing, but the top four, the top six is quite weak, I'd say, as well. But what goes good for them is the goaltending mostly, and that's Foy and Brouwer. So the goaltending kind of makes up for the lack of defense that they have. And then they have some interesting scratched options, including an injured Mauricio Peterson, who also used to play with us in our top six at one point. Unfortunately for him, though, he will miss this entire series, so we will not be able to face off against him. But it's kind of interesting to see two former players in Nashville at this point in their careers. So with that said, I think we're pretty much ready to get into this matchup. I just want to make sure the lines are good. I think I like the way they are right now. Krejcik's getting a big chance to play in the top six for the start of the playoffs, just because Kopitz will be missing a few games, I think it was. I can't remember when he returns, but Kopitz had a good season as well, 59 points, so it does suck that we lost him to start the playoffs, but at least Krejcik has been coming into the lineup and doing a pretty good job, so he's going to get the play next to Cogliano and Robertson at the moment, so I think that is decent enough. We don't really have the greatest team anymore on paper, but I think we could still win games because we do still have a pretty solid defensive core compared to some teams, and then our goaltending obviously is pretty good too. So I think we could still win games. I'm just a little bit skeptical because obviously we kind of went into the playoffs on a weird note, but at the same time, I feel like if you go into the playoffs on a bad note, maybe you do really good. If you go into the playoffs like 10-0, you just get swept or something like that. So we'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully we can find a way to get ourselves to the second round and beyond that as well. So with that said, let's get to game number one. We do not have home ice advantage, which is interesting. Nashville just barely has home ice. So let's see if we can find a way to win on the road to start off this first round here. Come on, boys. Let's get her done. Game number one. Let's have a good first period and set the tone for the rest of the series potentially. First period. 3-1 Albuquerque. Good start. Good start. Krejcik scores his first career playoff goal. Jeez, I can barely talk. On the power play, and it was literally 2 minutes into the game. So maybe on his first shift of the game or second shift of the game, he scores a goal already. So I think Krejcik could definitely be a very good player for this team. Obviously, he's only in the lineup because of an injury, but maybe he takes part in the lineup from somebody else like Doughty or from something, for instance. But we do get another power play goal a minute after that from McLeod as well, so good goal from a defenseman. Philippe Malak scores for them, of course. He's the only goal scorer for them on the power play. That was a couple minutes after our goal. And then Delisle scores a couple minutes later. So all 4 of those goals for the teams came in a span of like 4 minutes. So the rest of the period, it was pretty quiet. But shots are 17-11 in favor of us. So we definitely outplayed them in that first. Let's have a good second period here and not allow them to get back into this game. Second period. 4-1, nice little insurance marker. I'll take that. A regular strength goal from Hunwick with 32 seconds left. That's a big goal. Because going into the third only up by 2 goals is kind of a little bit worrisome just because you don't know what could happen in the third period. But being up by 3, you feel a little bit more safe. So let's just have a strong third period here and lock down this first game if we can. Come on, boys. But so far, so good. We're getting that offense. We're getting that defense. We just gave up another power play goal, but that's okay. It's Holton again. Actually, that's Holton's first, I guess. But maybe the one thing that's been bad in this game has been our penalty kill because we've allowed 2 power play goals. But we've got power play goals of our own, so at least it's kind of a decent trade-off. Final few minutes, and we are going to be taking Game 1 on the road in Nashville by a score of 4-2. Final shots 40-32. So a pretty solid game from everybody on this team. Good goaltending, good defensive play. And, of course, the offense was pretty solid, too. Got a lot of chances. Didn't score a crazy ton of goals, but 4 goals is good enough, especially when the league is a little bit lower scoring at this point in time. So, Krejcik from Kolarz and Gionta. So, Gionta picked up an assist on the first goal of the playoffs for us, so that's kind of intriguing. Maybe Gionta's going to help out with the offense, too, not just the goaltending. McLeod from Dunham and Kolarz. Then, of course, Malak scored for them. Delisle from Bell and Dunham. And Hunwick from Hansen and Reefers. So a bunch of different lines contributing in that game as well, which is great to see. Kolarz and Dunham both had 2 points. Everybody else had the 1 point. And in terms of plus-minus, we didn't have a single minus player. And Gionta posted a 938. So that's a pretty textbook first game. He gets first star of the game. Kolarz second star. And Delisle the third star. All right. So that's a good way to start off, especially on the road. Hopefully we can find a way to maybe take 2 of them, but since we took 1 of them at least, now we give ourselves a good chance if we can win games on home ice as well. So let's keep the lines the exact same and see if we could keep the momentum rolling. We were bad going into the playoffs, but we did win the last game of the regular season as well, so maybe this team is starting to find itself, and maybe we could go on a nice little run here. Let's see what happens. Game number 2, still in Nashville. Can we find a way to take a 2-0 series lead and win both road games? First period, Game 2. 2 on us. Another solid start for the offense. Cashman opens the scoring a few minutes in. Ludman ties it up literally less than 30 seconds later, which is kind of insane. And a short-handed goal from the youngster in Wall, who had 17 goals this season. So Wall and some of the other young guys are really proving themselves to being useful players on this team, like Wall, Krejcik. I think there's a couple other guys as well, but I've been really impressed with the young guys so far on this roster. Now, they are outshooting us 15-9, so Gionta had a very strong first period because Nashville definitely pushed a lot. Hopefully, we can keep this lead intact in the second because I do feel like the more shots Gionta faces, sometimes the better he is, but sometimes also he gives up a lot of goals. So we need to have a strong second period here and find a way to get an insurance marker if possible. Second period. 3-2 us. Okay, so they did tie the game up, Novoselicev, but Robertson scores a power play for a goal for us 2 minutes later. Shots are dead even. Goals are almost even. So it's 23-23. It's a 3-2 game going into the third. It's pretty much anybody's game going into this third period. We just got to find a way to make sure that they do not tie this game up, get an insurance marker, and we could pretty much lock down this game if that's the case. So let's see what happens. Third period underway. And they immediately tied up Bembridge. That's not great. Can we respond to that? Penalty kill. And they score another goal. It's Laxton, the youngster, who was probably the rookie of the year this year. Can we find a way to tie it back up? Holton makes it 5-3, man. A bad third period here is really going to tie the series up, huh? Final few minutes, still down by a pair of goals. They get another one. Geez, 4 goals in the third period. I don't know if I'd put that all on Giunta or the defense, but unfortunately the Preds are going to have a good third period and tie the series up at 1 apiece, headed back to our home arena. At least we stole one of their games, though, because if we didn't steal one of their games, we could have been in a bad spot, but yeah, that's not great. Those goals I wouldn't really put on Giunta just because, like, look at the location of them. All of them are kind of within the slot, these 3, and then this one's off from the side, so maybe that one's on Giunta. But these 3, definitely it looks like our defense wasn't playing the best in that third period. So hopefully we can play a little bit better next game. But that's not what I want to see, especially after we had a 3-2 lead going into the third. So Cashman from Dunham and Delisle, Wall from Carlotti and Hansen, and then we had Robertson from Krejcik and Cashman. So Krejcik picking up another point is nice. Any badly minus people? Yes, there is. Oh boy. It was our top line pretty much, our top power play line almost, I guess. Cashman, Dunham, and Kohler's really bad plus minus, but Hutton and McLeod were absolutely dreadful in that game. So we need those guys to do a lot better, especially McLeod considering he's one of our best defensemen. So not good plus minus there. There was only 3 guys that were plus, and that was Bell, Carlotti, and Hansen. And yeah, that was a rough game from Giunta after he had a really good first game. So I don't really know what to expect with Giunta, if he's going to have a strong game or a bad game. But he's a little bit inconsistent, as we know, when it comes to playoff time. But at least he's a good regular season goaltender. All right, so we'll keep him in net for next game. But if he plays bad again, maybe I give a chance to the young goaltender. But I am going to go ahead and maybe make some line adjustments already. Because even though we have a tie series, I do not like the way we played defensively in that third period last game. So I'm going to make some adjustments, especially considering guys like this second pairing were -4. We should probably make some adjustments. So let's move Hutton up to play with Hunwick. Bell could play with McLeod. And aside from that, we probably keep the rest the same. From our offensive standpoint, I guess, I will probably keep it the same as well. It's not like our offense has been that bad to start off the playoffs. So we'll probably keep the offense the same. But yeah, defense just needed some reworking. And like I said, if the goaltending is bad this next game from Giunta, then we probably give a chance to Bachman for at least maybe 1 game. We'll see. Kopitz is getting closer and closer to returning, which is nice. So maybe that will give us a bit of a boost. But I don't know who I would take out of the lineup to get Krejcik in full time, because Krejcik's been one of our best players right now. So maybe I would throw him in and Doughty would come out. I don't really know. Depends on the plus minus, I guess. But we could always take out Andy Wall, but Wall just scored in last game, so maybe Krejcik does stay scratched. I honestly don't know. It's tough to say. Krejcik could play center too. Maybe I would take Hansen out of the lineup, I guess. In this, Hansen's actually been good too. Damn. Yeah, there's a lot of players that have been good on this team, so it's like really tough to actually get everybody ice time that they probably deserve. Now, Krejcik will probably be a full-time player next season, but right now, obviously, he's kind of flirting with being a depth forward and actually being in the lineup, so anyways, we're back on home ice now for Game 3. Can we find a way to win both these home games and set ourselves up for some success? Or are we going to have a rough defensive game like last game? Let's see what happens. Hopefully we get a good game from Giunta here, just like because maybe he's bouncing between bad games and good games. First period, Game 3. 1-0 us. Okay, that's a solid start. We got outshot 20-11 in that first period, but we're up 1-0. So a 20-save first period. We are giving up way too many grade A chances, I'm guessing, but what a first period from Giunta. Definitely gave us a chance in that first period, because we could technically be down by 3 or more goals, I feel like, easily, but Dunham scores. So that's an okay first period in terms of getting the lead, but I do not like that we gave up 20 shots in a period, because if they continue like that, they're going to definitely find a way to break Giunta at some point, because Giunta, eventually, he starts to give up goals when he faces a lot of shots, I think, usually, but he might be locked in too. Let's see if we can get an insurance marker in the second period and make it easy for us in the third. Second period. 4-1 us. Okay, despite them out shooting us still, 30-26 now, we do have a 4-1 lead going into the third, so I feel absolutely safe with this type of lead. But Dunham scores the second of the night, make it 2-0. Bembridge pulled them within 1, but Reefer scores, and literally 4 seconds later, Wall scored. How the heck is it 2 goals in 4 seconds? Especially from the fourth line, that's pretty impressive. Those are the quickest goals I've ever seen, and both of them from similar areas. Like, how did Wall get back up the ice in 4 seconds and shoot from the same spot? Like, I'm kind of curious on how that happened. But that's kind of a crazy play. Kind of a crazy play. All right, so the fourth line scoring. Dunham is scoring on that top line. Let's lock this game down to the third period and take this game. Come on, boys. So far, it's been a little bit of an inconsistent start to the playoffs. We've had some good game, a bad game, and now we have another really good game. Doughty makes it 5-1 here in this third period. We just got to find a way to be a bit more consistent. Holton makes it a 5-2 game. Final few minutes of this third period, still up by 3 goals. And it looks like we are going to lock the rest of this down, and we are going to take a 2-1 series lead. So it's back and forth this series quite a bit. A very good game from Gionta, 41 saves in that victory. So, yeah, Gionta's definitely been inconsistent, but I know that at least he could still win us games when he does try hard. And the team plays good in front of him, too. So Dunham from Hunwick and Cashman. We had Dunham from Delisle. Reefers from Wall and Hutton, and then Wall from Reefers. So the two of those guys picking up 2 points in a span of 4 seconds is actually kind of insane. And then Doughty from Kolarz and Ristolainen is the last goal. So that third line hasn't really done too much offensively, but Doughty picking up a goal is nice to see, especially with when I was saying he could be out of the lineup soon. Well, he might actually stay in the lineup now. 3 stars in this game. Gionta the first star, Dunham the second star, and Reefers the third star. All right, so we have taken a 2-1 series lead. The question is, can we take both of our home games and take a 3-1 series lead, or is it going to be a back-and-forth series all the way throughout this? Could be. There's a lot of series that are tied at 2-2 right now in the West. Like, there's 2 series tied at 2-2. Technically, after this, it could be a 2-2 as well for a lot of teams. Yeah. Not a lot of teams are up 3-1 right now, or 3-0 for that matter. So if we go up 3-1, we might be one of these only teams that take out teams quite early on. But it could still go to a game 7 even if we go up 3-1. So I think we're going to keep the team the same. So far, our offense has been fantastic, I'd say. We've scored 12 goals in 3 games, so averaging 4 goals a game. Our defensive play has been pretty okay, especially these, obviously, this game, Game 3 and Game 1. Game 2 obviously was pretty bad, but if Gionta could find that good goaltending that he usually does in Game 4, then maybe we have a good chance of going far this year if our offense continues to score goals as well. So with that said, I think we're ready to get into game number 4. Can we take a 3-1 series lead, or is Nashville going to bounce back again just like they did in Game 2? Let's see what happens. Come on, guys. Let's get her done. Let's get her done. First period, Game 4. 1-1, I'll take it. I mean, we do give up a goal in the first period. And it was the first goal of the game. It was from Ludeman. Not the ideal, but we do respond, which is nice a couple minutes later. Dunham seems to be heating up as well as of late because he does have now 3 goals in the last 2 games. So maybe our top line is starting to finally contribute a little bit more so here in this postseason, which is nice to see. Shots are 14-8 in favor of them, so a good first period again from Gionta. Let's see if we can find that lead in the second period. Second period, 3-2 Nashville, not ideal. We did go up 2-1 early on. Doughty made it 2-1, but then they get 2 unanswered goals. Cassian and Holton with 4 minutes left, so they will take the lead into the third period by a score of 3-2. Shots are 27-21 in favor of them as well. Can we find a way to score a goal early and give ourselves a better chance in the third period, or is Nashville going to steal one of our home games like we did to them? Let's see what happens in this third period. Come on, boys. Let's get that next one. Let's tie this game up at 3. I know we have the goal scoring abilities, so we could definitely do it as Boudreau makes it 4-2 for the Preds. That's not ideal. Mitchell makes it 5-2. We do answer back with a goal from Ristolainen to make it 5-3, but that's probably too late now at this point. Oh, maybe not. Risto makes it 5-4. Is Risto going to help spark a comeback for this team? Power play for us. We do not score. Final few minutes. Please give me another goal. And we're not going to get it done. And unfortunately, despite a good little push from Ristolainen, we gave up too many goals early on in the third period, and that's the difference basically in the game. If we would have only given up that 1 goal from Boudreau, we could have definitely got this game to overtime. But unfortunately, the Preds steal one of our home games just like we did for them. And that's another bad defensive goaltending-ish effort. I mean, 39 shots on goal. I guess it's not the worst goaltending effort, but definitely need a better defensive play in that third period if possible. But now it makes it a best of 3 going forward. So this could definitely go to Game 7 in the series. I could see it happening. But Dunham from Delisle and Cashman. We had Doughty from Kolarz and Bell. And then we didn't score until the third period when Ristolainen scored from Kolarz and Doughty. And Risto scored again from Kolarz. Those could be the last 2 goals you see Ristolainen score and Kolarz assist on potentially too. Because this could be their last playoff run. So we got to be careful here. We don't want them to retire necessarily. But I probably hope that they retire just because of the cap hit. But I also want to win a Stanley Cup again with them if possible. But Kolar's picked up 3 assists, and you had Doughty and Risto line with 2 points. So that's it. Third line actually did really well in this game. Any badly minus people? Krejcik was a -3. That's not ideal from the kid. So he might get replaced in the lineup here shortly. And it's another bad game from Gionta, basically. We had all 3 stars in that game, too, despite losing. That's kind of insane. That's kind of impressive to lose a game 5-4 and have all 3 stars of the game. But, yeah, once Kopitz is back, we might have to scratch Krejcik. Even though he's had some points in the game, Kopitz will be back here for this next game, so that's at least going to give us maybe a boost. But, yeah, Krejcik, even though he has been good early into the series, yeah, that last game was pretty rough defensively, so we're going to take him back out of the lineup, and Kopitz will come on in. Hopefully that could give us a little bit of a boost having an 83 back in the lineup, because that definitely makes our offense stronger. So yeah, hopefully Kopitz could prevail here and get us some goal scoring. In the postseason before, he's not been the most insane player, so I am a little bit worried that he's not going to do us too much, but since he's now in a top 6 type of role, he definitely can, which is exciting. We could always put him down the middle and Cogliano over to the wing, just because obviously Kopitz is better at face-offs, but I don't think I want to have a sniper down the middle. So I prefer to hold him on there for now. We could always move Kopitz also to the top line at some point if Delisle's not doing too well. But for the time being, I think we're going to go with that. And yeah, I think that's all good. Perfect. All right. So will Kopitz help this team win the series, or are we going to all of a sudden start losing games because we're a better team now? I don't really know what version of Gionta we're going to get in this game because, like I said, he's been good in game 1 and 3, but he's been bad in games 2 and 4. So don't know if we're going to get a good version of him or a bad version. If we lose this next game, I might have to make some more adjustments. So let's get to game 5 and see if we can find a way to win on the road again. If we don't win this game, like I said, we might have to make some adjustments. Not necessarily to the goaltending, but definitely to the defense and also maybe the offense too a little bit. But let's see if we can get a good response here after the last game again. First period, game number 5. 2 on us. Okay, another solid start for our team. They do open the scoring again, though. Ludman a couple minutes in, but Dunham and Bell score. So 2 veterans on this team now, I guess. Shots are 16-8 in favor of us, so we actually have played them quite a bit in that first period, but they're still in this game, so Foy's trying to hold them in it. Hopefully, Gionta can play a little bit better in the second period, though, because 1 goal on 8 shots isn't ideal. He definitely could be stronger than that. We know he's given up no goals on 20 shots before in the first, so let's have a good second period here, find a way to get some insurance so we can have a bit more breathing room for that third period. Second period. Ooh, that's not a good second period, Gionta. He gives up a goal from Laxinen and Burrows, and now we're trailing 3-2 going into the third just like last game. Well, if we learned anything from last game, we know we cannot give up a goal or 2 early on because we tried to rally back too late last time. So we need to start that rallying back early as possible if we can. Shots are pretty even, 24-23 in favor of the Preds. We're down by only a goal, so we're still in this game. We just need Gionta to play strong, and we need to find a way to not give up those early goals like last game, like I said. So let's see if we can find a way to tie this one up in this third period. Come on, boys. Third period underway, penalty kill. We get a short-handed goal from Bell. Wow, Bell's got 2 goals in this big game, and a short-handed goal from the defenseman is kind of insane. And that's a big one to tie this game up to start off the third period. Can we find a way to get that lead? Power play for us. It's a long power play, and we do not capitalize on it. That's not ideal. Final few minutes. And we're going to be going to overtime in Game 5. This is a crucial overtime for both teams. Whoever wins this game has a chance to win the series in next game. So shots are really even, 34-33. It's a 3-3 game after 3. What's with all these 3s? Usually it's all these 2s, but this time it's all these 3s. Can we find a way to get that game-winning goal? Bell's been really good for us in this one. Maybe Bell has a chance to get a hat trick. I doubt he will, but who wants to step up in this game and get us that next goal? Maybe Kopitz will in his return. You never know. Well, I'm kind of nervous to jump into this, but let's see what happens. Who's going to win this game for us in overtime? Come on, please, boys. Maybe Ristolainen or Kolar's, one of the old men? Maybe somebody else like Doughty completely? I don't really know. Hey, and we do win in overtime, 4-3, and it's Hutton. It's Hutton. I was going to say maybe one of the defensemen. The defenders always seem to come through with some clutch overtime goals in the series. Like, we've had Hunwick score some big goals in the overtime. Hutton scored some goals too like this in overtime. It always seems to be a defenseman that helps out. But final shots at the end of this game, 38-36. We win 4-3. That's a big win in Nashville. And the back and forth continues with the Preds. The back and forth continues. So Dunham from Delisle and Cashman. We had Bell from Cogliano and McLeod. A big short-handed goal, Bell from Hansen. And then Hutton scores from Robertson. So 3 of our goals in that game came from D-men. So our defenders kind of help us out a lot with the offense too, which is nice to see. So Bell had 2 goals and then everybody else had 1 point. Any badly minus people? Only some -1s. It's okay. It's not the worst stats, I guess. And then the 917 from Giantas. So yeah, Giantas still playing really inconsistent right now. But if he could find that consistency, that could help us out a lot. And there's the 3 stars. Bell got 2nd star in the victory. So yeah, Gianta, if he could be a bit more consistent in the playoffs, we could definitely have maybe more cups under our belt. But right now, he's been kind of wildly inconsistent. But it comes down to this. If we could wind away the win on home ice, we could find ourselves in the next round. Obviously, if we lose this game, then we go to Game 7, and it could be the first time that a team wins 2 games in a row, potentially, which hopefully isn't the case. So, do I want to keep the team the same? Do I want to keep the team the same going into this next game? Because I feel like the game could script it into a Game 7, but at the same time, I feel like we could be the first team to win 2 games in a row. Not too sure if I need to make any adjustments or not. Has there been any pairing or any line that's been bad for this team defensively? Like, really bad? A couple -2s in there, which isn't the worst case scenario. Defensively, any bad pairings? -3 from, who was that? McLeod, but that's probably mostly from that one game. So, yeah, it's not really that bad. It's not really that bad. And Gianta's rocking a 904 right now. Isn't the best numbers in the world. But he's had some really good games, like I said, and he's had also some really bad ones. So let's see if he could have 2 good games in a row and find ourselves into that next round. If we can knock out the Preds, I feel like we can literally knock out any team almost. Now, the Preds only finished a little bit above us during the season, but maybe, like I said, maybe this team's going to find itself in the postseason this year. So let's get to Game 6 and see if we could eliminate Nashville and take out Holton in his married men. If Mauricio Peterson was playing in the lineup this series for the Preds, I think the Preds would definitely find a way to beat us. But since Mauricio Peterson's injured, I think that definitely helps us out quite a bit. So let's get to this next game, see if we can win 2 in a row, be the first team to win 2 in a row in the series. Or is it going to go to a Game 7 back in Nashville? Come on, boys. You got this. Just play consistently. First period, Game 6. 1-1, I'll take it. That's not too bad. They do open the scoring again. They've been opening the scoring quite a bit as of late. Graps with the scoring. And then a few minutes later, Dunham scores again. Dunham's been our MVP in terms of goal scoring for sure in the series. He's been scoring a lot the last 4 games or so. Shots are pretty even, 12-11 in favor of the Preds. It's a 1-1 game. We know there's been some really bad second periods we've had in the past. We've also had some good second periods. Let's have this as a good second period if we can. Second period. 2-1 Preds. So we are trailing going into the third again. We did trail going into the third last game. So we are still in this game. We are outshooting them 23-21 as Vauclair gets a goal for them. Yeah, this game's not on Gianta right now, and our offense is, at least it's getting chances, so I do feel like we could find a way to tie it, but we need to be careful, and like I said, not do what we did a couple games ago, where we gave up goals early in the third. We need to find a way to play good defensively to start off the third, keep ourselves in this game, and basically surprise them with a goal against. So, let's see what happens in this third period, see if we can find a way to tie this game up at 2. Come on, boys. Let's get that next goal. Let's get that next goal. Let's get it done. Let's get her done. I know Ristolainen and stuff has goals in them. Power play for us. It's a long power play. It's a very long power play, but we did not score on it. That's not ideal. That's not ideal, but we do tie it up late. A goal from Hutton. I was not expecting that. It just popped up out of nowhere. And once again, we're going to overtime. This is back-to-back games with an overtime, so that's kind of interesting. Shots are even. Goals are even as well. After 3 periods. 35-35, a 2-2 game. This is anybody's game going into this overtime at this point. I would jump in and watch, but it is round 1 only. It's not the craziest, and it's not game 7. So, who do I want to call on in this game? Hutton scored last game, and he scored this game. I'm trying to think of who could be the hero here for us, potentially. Try and see if I could come up with the most random name and it actually be accurate. Let's call on, I'm going to say maybe like Reefers. Let's sound on Reefers. Okay, let's see if that's the truth or not. Let's see what happens in overtime, see if we could close out the Preds. Come on, boys. Let's find a way to get another OT winner, and we do not get it as we gave up a goal in the first minute of overtime. Novoseltsev on the next shot has ended this game. We're going to Game 7. Well, that's not great. The home team has had a tough time in this series, regardless in terms of wins, but I hope it's not the trend that I was talking about where basically it's back and forth, and then Game 7, the home team or whoever has not won 2 in a row wins 2 in a row, something like that. But that's definitely one I thought we would have been able to find a way to win. So Dunham from Cogliano and Bell, and we had Hutton from Kohlers and Doughty. That's definitely not a bad game on Gianta's standpoint, because he had a 9-17 again. At least he was consistent. But it does suck that we lose in overtime there. 3 stars of the game. Foy had a really good game, and Foy hasn't been good this entire series, so we don't want Foy to catch fire, because if he catches fire all of a sudden, he's going to find a way to be able to beat us. So we might need to make some more adjustments here for Game 7, but it's been so back and forth so far. I think we might end up losing Game 7 potentially, just because of the back and forth scenario. But let's try and see if we could find a way to rewrite the script a bit, because I feel like the game has it set in stone kind of how this series is supposed to end. But if we make some adjustments, maybe we could find a way to revert that. So let's go with maybe Kopitz back down the middle. Actually, let's go. Yeah, Kopitz down the middle on the top line. Cashman hasn't done much. Actually, no, he has done much. 5 points. Maybe I should put him back on the top 6. Trying to think of what I could do here realistically. This might be the last NHL game for Kohlers and Bristow too, which is unfortunate. Wow, Kohlers is on 7 assists. I didn't even realize Kohlers was doing that well. We're going to move Kohlers to the top line again like the old days. Might be a bit of a stretch doing that, but we are going to try some random things. Who has better face-off, Cashman or Risto at this point? It's still Risto. I guess we'll run Cashman as a winger, which is not ideal, but try and spread out the offense a little bit. Is there anybody that's been bad on the offensive core? Not really, right? Because I was thinking of getting Krejcik back in, but might as well keep him scratched for the time being. And then defensively, can I put McLeod on the top pairing? Not really, unless I move Hunwick down. Because McLeod hasn't done too much for me offensively this series. Yeah, he's been actually pretty bad. Yeah, there's not much I could do, I don't think. Yeah, unfortunately, we're going to have to keep the defensive pairings the same. Goaltending, we're going to run with Gianta again, but I hope I get the good version of him. I really do. Alright, so I think we're going to run with this as our lineup going into Game 7. Kohlers gets that big chance on that top line again because he's been very good in terms of passing. Ristolainen could get moved up in the lineup, but at the same time, he hasn't been as good, so he's a little bit of an older guy, and we need him for those face-offs down there on that third line. So with that said, Game 7 is upon us. Let's see if we could find a way to win on the road again and get ourselves to the second round. It's been a very weird first round. If we do find a way to win this, maybe we have an easier time next round, but this is going to be really tough, obviously, to win 2 in a row, or win 1 and keep that back and forth going. Because if we win this one, no team won back-to-back games, which is kind of insane. So I don't know if any of this teams is going to be a favorite going into next round after this matchup, but let's see if we can find ourselves into next round. Let's get off to a good start, and let's play good through a full 60 minutes. We can't just play 2 periods and be good. We need to play a full 60 here. Let's see what happens. Game 7 in Nashville. Come on, boys. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. Nashville opens the scoring for like the 5th straight game, I think, as Burrows scores. Do we have a response to that? Because we need to. And Laxinen makes it 2-0. Oh boy, we're going to lose 2 in a row, aren't we? I just feel it in my bones that this is going to be the first team to win 2 in a row. Graps makes it 3-0 in the first. Well, looks like we're going to be packing our bags probably in this first round, unless Cashman has other plans, because he just pulled us within 2. Still a lot of time left to get back into this game, but I do not like that start whatsoever. Ugh. This game is so weird. If Nashville goes on to win the Stanley Cup after this, I would be kind of surprised, just because, like I said, they haven't been that good against us in this series so far, but they might be the first team to win 2 in a row, and that's maybe all that it takes. So, not an ideal first period, but at least we got a late goal, so maybe that gives us a little hope. If we could get an early goal to start the second, we could definitely still come back. So, let's see what happens in the second period. We need to play better defensively, though, going forward. Come on, boys. Let's get that next one. Get me another goal. Laxton makes it 4-1. That's probably going to write this game off, isn't it? Coming back from 3 goals at this point is pretty tough. I kind of know the script of the series once I saw it going back and forth. I knew some team eventually was going to win 2 in a row, and of course it has to be Nashville. Lockdown dress makes it 5-1. Well, that's very unfortunate, especially considering this is the last game of, like I said, Ristolainen's career, probably Kolar's career. This might be one of our last chances to actually go for another Stanley Cup too. So this is an unfortunate way to end this playoff run. But I kind of understand it because we're not that great of a team on paper anymore. But we should probably have gotten a better simulation maybe. I'm not too sure. But it's not like we played bad in every single game. It's in our losses we played bad, or we lost games by only a goal. So I feel like we definitely could be in the second round, but the game just didn't want to give it to us. Well, third period, let's see if we could come back from 5-1 down. And it looks like it's not going to happen because we would have had to score 2 goals early on if we wanted to have any chance of coming back in this. I'm not even going to jump in and look at anything because we already have like player faces anyways for the guys that are going to retire probably. But this sucks, man. This sucks. And there it is. The Nashville Predators find a way to score 5 goals again, and they have knocked us out in Game 7 of the first round. Damn. Kind of expected that when it was going back and forth. Like, if we found a way to win in Game 6, obviously it wouldn't have happened. But since we lost in Game 6, the Nashville Predators are the first team to find back-to-back wins in the series, and they have knocked us out. Our only goal came from Cashman, from Doughty, and Ristolainen. So that might be Ristolainen's last career point there in his last NHL game. That's unfortunate, man. Well, we knew Gionta was going to have a little bit of a tougher time this postseason. He wasn't the worst. Like, a 909 save percentage is pretty solid. But Bachman actually came in, apparently. Or did Bachman start this game? I don't know what the heck's with this stat. It says he gave up a goal on 1 shot against. And he didn't play any minutes, though. So I honestly have no idea what that's about. But, yeah, we definitely need to find a way to be more consistent with the defensive play. We just need to. And, of course, the youngster and Laxton made a difference in that game. And Foy was really good the last 2 games, which before that, he was only rocking like an 895 against us. So the game basically decided to cheese us because they decided we deserved not to get to the next round. But that sucks. So Kopitz returned, and it didn't really help out anything too much. Well, let's take a look at our stats to wrap up the season, and then we will see who ends up winning the Stanley Cup, the retirements, and all that. But that's an unfortunate way to end off the 2047 season. I don't know how good we're going to be next year, but hopefully decent enough. So Dunham had 8 points. He was really solid. Kolar's 7 assists in 7 games. Might be the retirement for him in this episode. Cashman on 6 points. Doughty had 5 points. Like, our depth scoring was pretty solid, I'd say. Risto had 4 points as a 39-year-old. Like, definitely it was an okay playoffs in terms of the depth scoring. But the plus-minuses on certain lines, I guess, were the issue. Like, that second line really didn't do too well. Because Robertson only had 2 points after a good regular season. Cashman had 6 points, but he was -2. Cogliano was -4. Not ideal. So we did give up maybe a bit too many goals. And Gionta had a 907, but a 3.5, 3 goals against average. So definitely a tough time for him, but maybe he wins at least a Vezina this season. But damn, that's tough. Let's go to playoff stats for a second. I want to see what was simulating good for us and what wasn't, and why we lost that series. So we scored 3.29 goals for per game. We allowed 3.71, so we only gave up a little bit more than we scored. But so yeah, the offense was good. The defensive play was atrocious. The power play didn't work for us well in that first round either, 11.5%. And our penalty kill was not very good at 80%. So maybe we needed better special teams. Our shorthand goals were good. We did score 2 shorties. We could not find a way to win on home ice whatsoever. And then on the road, we won more games than we won on the road, so, or on the home ice. Oh, that's unfortunate, man. That is unfortunate. Is what it is, though. At least we're getting closer and closer to the end of the series in a way. So we probably have, I think, like 1 to 2 seasons left of this. So let's find out, I guess, now who's going to end up winning a Stanley Cup this year. Because we might as well. Yeah, we might as well. And like I said, retirements and all that. Like, I'm kind of worried about the retirements, but at the same time, we know that those retirements have to come eventually. So I would not be surprised to see both Risto and Kolarz hang them up this season. Which means I don't really know who's going to be replacing them full-time next season. Probably Krejcik, but I'm not too sure who else. Vancouver fires their head coach, apparently. Interesting. And Buffalo's going to win the Stanley Cup here in 2047. And Colorado won the AHL, it said. So the Buffalo Sabres, the Stanley Cup champions. I wonder who was on that roster, if there was any former players or not. Who did they beat for the Stanley Cup? The Minnesota Wild via sweep. So, yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So Buffalo wins the Stanley Cup. Nashville got all the way to the conference finals to lose in 7. They actually went to 3 straight Game 7s after they played us. So, yeah, the Nashville team was quite mid, and I could definitely see why they were knocked out in the conference finals. If they got to the Cup finals and won a Stanley Cup, I would be pretty surprised on that. But Buffalo wins the Stanley Cup. Let's take a look at that Buffalo Sabres winning team just to see if there's any guys that used to play with us or not. Because I don't really know if anybody's signed with Buffalo or not. Let's see. So, in terms of centers, there's Vishnowsky, Cheestov, Bales. Left wingers, they have a ton of them. Angelides, Nilsson, Vanier, Woodworth. That's not the one that was with Columbus. That's the one in my other series, I think. Nobody used to play with us there. Right wingers, they only have one in Markkinen. Defensively, Quentin Johnson. Oh, yeah, I remember this dude from Anaheim. Aside from that, they had a guy named Bell. This guy could be related to the Bell on our team. I'm not too sure. And from a goaltending perspective, Andre Trotter. I don't recognize really any guys on that team. That's interesting. So Markkinen probably went on to win the Conn Smythe with his 15 goals, likely. All right. So awards for this season. So Buffalo wins the Stanley Cup. Probably the first time they've won the Cup in this franchise mode, maybe. In terms of the President's Trophy, went to the New York Islanders, and it was Minnesota Buffalo Cup Finals. It's been a couple years now since we've been back to that Stanley Cup Finals again, so I don't know if this team's going to make it back again or not. In terms of individual awards, the Art Ross going to Cunning in Pittsburgh. Also, the Hart goes to Cunning. Michelli wins the Norris for Edmonton. Kolosov, the Lady Byng. Laxonen, the Calder for Nashville. Not a surprise. He was pretty good against us. Markkinen wins the Conn Smythe for Buffalo. Vignetti wins the Vezina. So there's no Vezina to Gionta this season. They gave it to Vignetti. That's kind of interesting. I got to take a look at Vignetti's stats again because I don't remember. Boris Malkin wins his second William M. Jennings of his career because he won one with us too. Leonov the Masterton. Stefan the Jack Adams. Ludwig the Selke. Cunning the Lindsay. And Potter the Maurice Richard. So how good was Vignetti? Out of curiosity in Florida. Let me take a look at the AHL briefly here too. But how good was Vignetti in Florida again? Because I do not remember his stats compared to Gionta's. It's probably just because he played a few more games that he ended up winning it. Because I think Gionta was better if I remember right. Let's see. So Vignetti during the season posted a 922. Gionta had a 921, but a better goals against. And Vignetti played 68 games. Meanwhile, Gionta played 60, I think. So I think the difference is that the save percentage was a tiny bit better. And he played 8 more games. If Gionta played 8 more games, would his stats look better? Maybe. Maybe not. But that's an unfortunate one. That's definitely one I thought Gionta could have won. But unfortunately, they give it to the Florida goaltender. At least they didn't give it to Malkin, but still. Would have been nice to see Gionta with another Vezina, but unfortunately, that's not the case. All right, now the question is the retirements, the draft lottery stuff, all that. I don't even know what this draft class is looking like, too, so that's going to be interesting to look at. But Chicago's going to have the first overall pick in 2047, followed by Toronto, Carolina, Vancouver, and Utah. All right. So who's going to retire in 2047? Are we going to lose the big guys? Actually, for 1 second here, we're going to put my face on screen again, and I'm going to swap this over to goaltenders so I do not see if there's any former players or any centers or any big name players retired yet. So there you go. Let's see who retired, because we'd want to kind of leave it to the end to see if Risto retired. So in terms of goaltending retirements, Anybody that used to play with us? I don't really recognize too many of these goalies, to be honest. Maybe Schmidt, but yeah, nobody used to play with us here, I don't think. Or is Semenov one of ours? Maybe not. Oh, he was. I do remember him. Okay. I was not too sure on him, but then I was like, wait a second. I recognize Semenov as a name. He was one of our goalies at one point. Didn't play at all with us, or no, he played a little bit with us as a backup 1 year, and then he was kind of just a fringe depth option, and a backup again. Those were during the early years of Giunta, I guess, and then we let him go, and he went to play with Montreal, LA, Washington for a bit. Not the craziest goaltender in the world, but still shout out to him. So there's Semenov. In terms of defenders, any big name defensemen retired this year? Let's see. Nobody that played with us so far. So that means Bell didn't retire, which is good, but Bell could retire next year. There are some guys that I do recognize from playoff matchups and stuff like that. But there's nobody that used to play with us, it looks like, on defense here. Unless there's just like a random guy down here at the bottom of this list. Which right now I'm not even seeing. Oh, there is one. So Thomas Ackerstrom is retired at 35 years of age, which is kind of younger than I anticipated. He only played with us briefly, former third-round pick. Played with us a couple years ago. But yeah, he only got 78 career games in, 27 in the playoffs. Not really a bad player defensively, good plus-minus, but just didn't really develop into being much for us. Anybody else that used to play with us on defense? Maybe Bishop? No, Bishop? No. I do remember that Bishop guy for some reason. Right wingers, let's see what we got here. Joe Aguila retired. Damn, that's a pretty big retirement. Anybody that used to play with us on a right wing side? And obviously when we go to the left wingers, we'll see if Kohlers retires. Oh, there's a former guy, right? Ludwig Enroth. Yeah, he was in the AHL for the last season too. He retires at 34 years of age. 18.61 career games. Not bad. Not bad, but didn't really give us much. The real question, though, is about the left winger and the centers. Did we lose Kohlers to retirement this season? The answer is no, we did not lose Kohlers. So Kohlers will return for another season. I'm really hoping he's not super expensive, but he could be like a bottom six option for us still again next season, or maybe a depth forward for us. But it does suck that he's not going to retire in a way, because I feel like he could still demand some money, but maybe he's not going to. But Kohlers decides not to call it quits yet. Any former left wingers, though, that used to play with us? Oh, there is one down here I see, and that is Pascal Lambert. Decides to retire at 34, 421 career games, 141 points. Was he on our cup winning team? He was. He was on the cup winning team. So shout out to him. I actually won a Calder Cup in the last year, I guess, of this franchise mode too. Or this last year, this franchise mode so far. And yeah, playoffs. The year we won the Stanley Cup, he had 5 points in 17 games. He wasn't huge on that cup-winning team, but still, he is a Stanley Cup champion, so shout out to him. Former second-round pick. Anybody else on the left wing side of things that I remember? Nope. Okay, so the question now is, did Risto retire? He's 39 years old, so if he doesn't retire here, he is literally not going to retire, I feel like, in this franchise mode. But let's see. Did Risto retire? He did not. Oh my goodness. Okay, that might be the most surprising thing I've seen. So Risto literally just does not want to quit, which is good. He's signed for another year already, which is also good, I think. But obviously that cap hit kind of sucks. But at the same time, Risto just does not want to quit here, which means he's still going to be the thumbnail cover, so that's good. But damn, I was not expecting him not to retire this year. The best retirement this year was Ragnarsson in Winnipeg. Damn, I am really surprised that he's still playing at his age. He's probably dropping off a cliff, though, because of that. But, yeah, no huge centers that used to play with us retired. So, in terms of retirements, we just lost Enroth in the AHL. So, that is kind of crazy. We literally have everybody coming back again for another year. I guess everybody still believes in this team. We did not lose any coaches. We did lose actually one in the AHL, but that's probably a goalie coach. And then in terms of that, we lost also a scout, our Russian scout, but that's okay because we're at this point we don't really care too much as much about the draft as we did in the past. Final few things, let's take a look at the progress reports, the contracts in the draft class. So we'll start off with the contracts. just because I don't remember who's up for renewal. There's some pretty decent players that are up for renewal. Wasn't too sure on that. Mostly all UFAs too, which sucks. So Delisle, Kopitz, Cogliano, all UFAs. We have Hutton, who's a UFA as well. Which, as the defensive core, that's a pretty strong one that we might end up losing because the defensive core is so strong. $8 million. We might be able to afford him bringing him back. Robertson's an RFA, so we could still qualify him for longer. Pedersen is a UFA. Kolarz is a UFA again. What is Kolarz wanting? Out of curiosity right now. 3.15, that's not too bad. It's not too bad. Doughty's a UFA. Yeah, we have a lot of UFAs to deal with. Ristolainen's a UFA, actually. I didn't even realize that. I thought he was an RFA. Oh, man. Or not an RFA. I thought he was going to be re-signed already. What does Risto want? $1.3 million. You know what? I'm already offering him that. Take that money. Thank you. I'm already going to just offer him that in this episode because we might as well just give him that. He might end up being like a very low player on our roster, but I just don't want him to go anywhere else. Shout out to this high 9 for growing a decent amount. But yeah, we have a lot of UFAs to deal with. We also have both of our young RFA goaltenders to deal with too. So a lot of interesting players that I'm not too sure on who should come back and who shouldn't. We probably should try and bring back mostly everybody, or else we're probably going to miss the playoffs. I wonder how much cap space we even got though. Aside from that, let's take a look at the progress reports, see if we got any good growth or any crazy drop off too. So Bachman went up by 4 points. That's good. Bell dropped off to an 82, listed as an exact top 60. So this could be the last season for Drew Bell coming up. If it is our last season in general, I'm not too sure. But a lot of guys are kind of mid right now, not getting a crazy amount of growth. Reefers is up to an 80, listed as a third line scoring forward. That's not too bad. Wall's still a fourth liner, but he had a good season last year. Left wing side of things, Kolarz is dropping off a lot. He's down to an exact top 9, 81 still. Getting some statistical growth, so he's probably even lower than a 81. He's probably like a 79. Dingle should be in the lineup next season, full-time, as we expected. How good was he in the AHL last year? 57 points, 126 penalty minutes, damn. Interesting year for the Dingle. Centers, Kopitz went up to an 85 on statistical growth. Some more. Oh, Cashman's dropping off a cliff. Cashman might retire really soon too. That's really surprising. Like, he's still exact bottom 6. A lot of statistical growth from him, but also a lot of natural drop off. So he could be very low. Ristolainen, of course, dropped off too. Is there any stats that still look very good for him or not? His face-off still hasn't dropped off at all, which is quite impressive. So he might be literally a 78 with 99 face-offs. Alright, in the system, any crazy growth? Let's sort by growth maybe. Just see, so that high 9 is pretty good for growth. Let's see, Eli McKinnon got some good growth. Jankomov's up to 74. Looks like some good growth. Conan's a 64 now. Left wing side of things, Vasilyev went up to a 76. So that is a good call, obviously, to put him in the AHL last year because he could jump to our NHL team. Maybe this upcoming season, maybe 2 seasons from now, but 39 points in his rookie year, 21 goals. And then they didn't make the playoffs, so holy crap, I didn't realize how big of a boy Vasilyev is. 6'5", 228 at the age of 20. Crazy. Yeah, this guy might end up getting in right near the end, which is kind of good. So shout out to Vasilyev. Right wing side of things, not anything crazy, I guess, just a little bit from Peluso. Defensively, Percy's up a little bit, but aside from that, we don't really have too much prospects on defense. And goaltending, Owens is up to a 64, Andronov's up to an 80, as we saw. And then Shodin's up to a 75 at 22 as a fringe starter. That's pretty impressive. He's already outgrown Bergfors. Huh. Alright. So there is that. The final thing we got to take a look at is this draft class. Where are we drafting this year? Probably early on, right? Yeah, 22nd. Alright. Well, we don't really care too much about the draft class, but we'll still look at it anyways. First overall pick this year is apparently Emiliano Cahill. Looks like a pretty basic draft. No franchise player in it. 22nd overall, there is Alec Card. He's not going to make it before this year's ends. Dodonov is not going to either. Boscheman. Yes, yikes. A lot of these guys don't look great. Noonan, medium 9. Is that a medium 7 supposed to go in the first round? If that is, that's actually kind of insane. Yeah, this looks like a weak draft class ahead. I honestly don't expect us to get much. Now, there is a low lead power forward, so that's kind of nice. In Sergei Moroza. We might as well take him, but he won't make it before the series ends. And there's also a low lead gem, maybe, in Frazee. We'll pin him. So there might be some steals we get, potentially, but all of them are probably not going to make the team at all, which kind of sucks. So we'll just pin a couple guys with some good potential here. Medium top 6 gem in Aubrey. We'll pin him as well. Anybody with some good potential that we didn't see at all? There is this guy who's definitely not a franchise player. He's probably a little elite, to be honest. We'll pin him in Westgarth. There's a medium elite sniper in Mikulski. So that's interesting, but he won't make it before the series ends. There's also a medium elite goalie in Konopka. Let's just pin him for the potential. This guy could be elite potentially too. 2 years out. That's kind of interesting. But he is supposed to go before our picks, so never mind. Any low elites that we could pin for late parts of this draft class. There's a gem right here that might be an elite goaltender too, but that doesn't really matter that much. Low elites, there is another one. There is Musel. We'll pin him. We'll pin him for sure, just as a late round selection maybe. Ooh, a low lead Belgian player. He's 19 years old, was playing in Switzerland, but that's interesting. Joseph Vallaholi. So he's like a Finnish Belgian player. I don't really know, but that's kind of an interesting pick. There's also Ryder Orr, who could be a low elite, but no guarantees. There's also another gem here in Komatov. Yeah, there's probably a good amount of low elites and steals in this draft class, but all of them aren't going to make it before the series ends, which is unfortunate. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll go through one of our final off seasons. It might be our final off season. I'm not too sure if this goes till 2047, 48 or 48, 49. So this might be one of our last off seasons we have. And then, of course, the season simulation ahead. Hopefully we can make it back to the playoffs again, but I don't really know if this team's going to be able to go far in the playoffs again. Obviously, it seems like our window might be closed and we're just kind of trying to make the playoffs still, but we don't really have that success in the postseason that we did in the past anymore. Like, it's going to be really tough for us to get to a conference finals again, I feel like. So let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.